Speaking of Cults podcast is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from it is at the user's own risk. The views, information, or opinions expressed by the host and guests are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute medical or other professional advice. Hello and welcome to the Speaking of Cults podcast. This is Chris Shelton, your host. Thank you very much for joining me again this week. Happy that you are here. And this week, we have been discussing a lot about Mormonism this year. I've had Bryce and Shannon on from the Glass Box podcast, and we've been having a real time diving deep into Mormonism. And what I have not had an opportunity to do is dive back into the world of Jehovah's Witnesses until now. So we're going to be doing that today. I am welcoming Michael Shemwell. He is the host of his own show, Shunned, and is a former Jehovah's Witness, second gen, just like me. And he and I had the pleasure of meeting at the Jubilee production where we went out to LA and got to basically compare and contrast, and we'll talk about that a bit, of Scientology and Jehovah's Witnesses. And for those of you who have long time been following my show, you know, back in the Sensibly Speaking podcast days, I did a number of episodes with a former Jehovah's Witness and a former Mormon. And we got to do compare and contrast. We called those the Three Apostates shows. And we had Lloyd Evans and Jonathan Streeter on, and those were a lot of fun. I think we did about 10 of those, but those were many, many years ago and deep in the archives. And so let's go ahead and bring this topic back around, because the Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of endlessly fascinating, just like Scientology and Mormonism has been. So, Mike, welcome to my show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Let's have a conversation. So first off, let's go ahead and maybe start talking about that Jubilee thing. That was kind of fun. Did they just contact you out of nowhere with an invite, or how did you get connected with that?
Yeah, I just got a random email through. So I have a personal website. It's michaelshemwell.com. And I just had an email come through a form there saying there's this thing going on and that perhaps I would want to apply for it. As someone who has watched Jubilee before, I find some of the conversations really interesting. I thought this is a pretty cool opportunity. So let's go. So I immediately followed up with all the things that they wanted, and it was a pretty quick process, really pretty quick turnaround, and got invited and drove 32 and a half hours to Canoga Park, the Los Angeles area, to do it from Indiana.
Wow, all the way from Indiana. Damn, yep. I'm here in Denver, but I flew. I took Southwest. Yeah.
If I could fly and not be really, really sick, I would have flown, but ended up in a really cool road trip. Thankfully, my wife likes road trips.
Fair enough. I will say I get pretty sick of the fees and charges that the airlines charge us. That's for sure. I hate flying. Never have enjoyed it. Anyway, yeah, we had some fun out there. I laughed, and tell me what you thought of this. When we were told by the director out there, we were kind of kept apart, and they wanted everything organic for the camera. So we didn't really have a lot of chit chat or meeting time during the thing. But I thought it was funny when she said, yeah, we've been trying to put together this show of getting like ex-Scientologists and current Scientologists together, or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and current Jehovah's Witnesses. And we all laughed because I thought, yeah, right. Sure, they're going to come on and talk to us. Not, right? We'd be willing to, but they're never going to. What was your take on that whole thing?
Oh, same thing. I mean, I am shunned, as it says above my head here in my studio. My mom won't talk to me, so the chance that a bunch of strange Jehovah's Witnesses are going to show up when they practice extreme shunning, and they They act like we, quote unquote, apostates are mentally diseased and have this illness that they might catch from us. There's no possible way they're going to show up unless perhaps they have somebody trained in their, personal, in their PR department, basically, to come do something like that. There's no way.
Yeah,
They don't
exactly.
want honest conversations. That's why they shot in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm there. I'm as disconnected as
Yep.
disconnected could be as far as Scientology goes. Same, different language, same concept, right? Get away,
Yep.
get out, apostate, evil, horrible, nasty, teller of lies. You
Literally the
know?
worst thing you can do. Like my parents would rather I had cheated on my wife or murdered someone than that I just think it's all crap.
That's right.
That's I don't believe it anymore. And I mean I did very sincerely for a long time, but the worst thing you can do, the biggest threat is to no longer believe because if you can no longer believe, well, perhaps they could too, and that's scary for them.
That is very, very true. I did a live stream as we're recording this today. I did a live stream yesterday. Somebody sent me an email of an on the fence Scientologist, a guy who is clearly, or a woman, I actually don't even know, um, because it was anonymized. I mean, we took out all the identifying information, but this email exchange between this person and this Scientologist had them being critical of the church and maybe doubting some things and throwing some questions out, and it was fun to break that down for people, sort of take that whole thing apart as to what's going on and how the person is struggling to rationalize their continued belief. And so we kind of took that apart, how they were doing that to show
Mhm.
what the thought processes are as to how people start seeing the doubts, but it's not a one and done and it's not a light switch. It's a gradual process of awakening or waking up to things. Often I've found it to be through a lot of the triggers tend to be moral dilemmas or outrage, right? Where their morality is challenged, that you must disconnect from your mother. You got to quit this job. They start making demands on you that are just what? That's just not, and the one for one, it's almost, well, that's not right. And that leads to the things breaking apart. I don't know. Do you relate to that at all?
Oh, 100%. As I see it, a lot of the people who leave Jehovah's Witnesses are the very people that they could not strip the humanity from. At some point, these people actually got in touch with their own feelings. I mean, for me, it was, where's the love here? I'm told this is the most loving place in the world, but where is it? And
Right.
I wasn't feeling it. I didn't know how to give it. I didn't even know what it was myself. I just knew it was messed up and that I should probably have more empathy for people. And it was, that awakening of my humanity, I think, that really led me to the ultimate questioning of everything in many stages through many years. But a lot of the people who leave, as I like to say, are the most sincere Jehovah's Witnesses there. They're not just in it for the community. They're not playing. They actually believe it. And then at some point, there's something that touches that humanity, and they can't look past what they know is wrong inside anymore.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's how I see it too. Well, let's talk about you a little bit. You have a
Mhm.
you have a background in all of this. You grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. Were you born in, or did your parents convert when you were a little kid? Mine converted when I was about 3 or 4. My
Okay.
parents became Scientologists, so I didn't have any real, not too many pre-Scientology memories to fall back on. What was your story with us?
For me, I was about 8 or 9, went through a chance real estate move. I think my dad had lost his job. I was a kid, so I don't wasn't privy to all the details. But I think my dad lost his job, and they were struggling to make ends meet where we live. So we moved to another neighborhood. We happened to move next door to a family of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh boy.
And my mom and the mom next door hit it off. And the rest is history. I don't know how long it took for my mom to eventually, she took to it. She had a Bible study, which is a study of Watchtower publications with the next door neighbor. Um, she became one of Jehovah's Witnesses. My dad, he really wasn't into any of it, but I think he was curious. He showed up just to kind of see, what is it that my mom is in. And it's hard because it's not like I can ask her the details because I'm shunned, but I believe we were going with my mom at the time, just us kids and my mom. And I think my dad was like, hey, what's going on here? So he kind of got curious. He took an interest. My dad was he's kind of a follower, and he just kind of fell into it. A charismatic brother at the Kingdom Hall wanted to study with him, and I think my dad was like, well, sure, whatever. And yeah, I think the next year, maybe after my mom was officially baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I think it was the following summer my dad was baptized. And so I was 8, 9, somewhere in there. I remember holidays. I remember Christmas. I remember Halloween. I remember having like friends at school who were non-Jehovah's Witnesses. I remember having a life. I had non-Jehovah's Witness family that we would go celebrate things with and see. And then once we became Jehovah's Witnesses, all that went away. And we really became pretty isolated pretty quickly.
Oh, that's a damn shame. How many brothers and sisters?
At
Siblings?
that time, I guess it would have just been me and one younger brother, but today I'm the oldest of four. I have a brother who's 5 years younger than me, a brother who's somewhere around 10 years younger than me, and a sister who's about 20 years younger than me. When you don't celebrate birthdays your whole life, it's honestly kind of hard to remember how old
Right.
people are.
Wow, that's an interesting unintended consequence of that. Of
Yeah.
course it would be. Yeah, it's things you don't think about, right?
Yep.
Man, that just blows. I feel like, yeah, it's real. What would be the summary version of the Jehovah's Witnesses belief set and practices? And it doesn't have to be two sentences, obviously. There's probably more, but what's the short version of what this group is about that you got into?
Um, Armageddon, God's great war of Armageddon, where the world as we know it will be destroyed. The earth will remain, but it will be converted back to basically the Garden of Eden. Like that was God's original purpose, was the Garden of Eden.
Hmm.
Mankind messed that up by sinning. So Jesus died and bought back that opportunity for us again. And any day now, there will be an Armageddon. We are living in the last days of this world. And tomorrow, and it's always tomorrow, right? It's just around the corner, but it's circular reasoning, so there are no corners. It's there's always the big A is coming tomorrow. God is going to basically murder 8 billion people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses so that 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses can live on this earth in perfection, grow back to what God originally intended in the Garden of Eden without all you dirty sinners messing it up for us. And we would attain perfection and then repopulate the earth, and all the people who had died throughout time will come out from the memorial tombs. They will be resurrected in some sort of weird zombie thing. They will be back on the earth. They will be at their physical prime, and we will all live at our physical prime for 1,000 years. And then during that 1,000 years, Satan the devil is locked up in an abyss to where he can't tempt us anymore. So we can grow to perfection over that 1,000 years. And then we're still not good enough. So Satan will be let out to test us one more time, just like in the Garden of Eden. And we're apparently going to mess up bigly again because the number who mess up will be as the sands of the sea, like this monumental unnumbered mass of humans who will mess up again. Again, God will probably kill all of them. And then finally, Satan will be done away with. All the dirty, evil people will be done away with. And only the pure hearted will live on into eternity.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I,
pretty cool
you know,
story, huh?
well, yeah, what a horrible story.
Yeah. So much
I
death and destruction.
I knew about the Armageddon. I didn't know the cyclic nature of Armageddon. I didn't realize it was going to happen again. Okay. Now, none of what you just described is in Revelation or any chapter I'm familiar with in the Bible. So where does that interpretation come from? Is this an interpretation of Revelation that I've just missed
Yeah,
out
a
on,
lot of that
or
is interpretation of Revelation.
okay? The 1,000 year gap and the return of him. I mean, that's in there too, because I guess I don't
Yes,
read it that
don't
way.
ask me to quote those verses anymore. Those have thankfully kind of left my working memory because they're not something I need anymore. But
Good.
yes, I mean it's
But
you know
so there's no other scripture, there's no Book of
no
Mormon for the JWs. There's no
no
additional writings or something that claim to be prophetic or
nope.
what I don't know the words apostolic or something like, the official stuff.
No, this is the Bible. I mean, it is their New World
Okay.
Translation, and I won't pretend that they haven't changed things to suit their narrative at times. But look, they've created a story. They've attached a lot of things to make it happen. The story that I just told you used to be in a book they had published called Revelation, its grand climax at hand. I
Ah,
was a kid when they studied this book multiple times in the, I'll say late 80s, early 90s. And, they believe the United Nations is I don't know, the wild beast from Revelation, and it will
right.
turn on the great harlot, which is Babylon the Great, or the world empire, a false religion. Obviously, all religions are false other than Jehovah's Witnesses. So the United Nation will destroy all religions, and then the only ones left standing will be Jehovah's Witnesses. And then the governments will turn their attention toward Jehovah's Witnesses because, I mean, like any good narcissist, it's always all about that narcissist, right? It's always about Jehovah's Witnesses. And so, center of the entire universe. And the governments will turn on them, and then Jehovah will swoop in to rescue them and annihilate the world as we know it today.
Wow.
And it is from that book that they wrote. That was a lot of their narrative. But funny enough, they kind of shut up real quick about that book because they had to keep making changes over the years because things weren't quite aligning. In fact, we even had like a pamphlet that they gave us at the meetings, and we were supposed to like make our own changes to their publication because it was wrong now. Of course, they would never say it's
Wow.
wrong. Now we're clarifying it, or it's new light, or whatever. The light has gotten brighter. And so, yeah, so they have their own narrative. They change it to suit themselves. But the overall message there, the overall happenings are something that they still hold to. The
Okay.
details change in subtle ways.
Right. Of course they would. This is literally the study of this exact kind of thing, doomsday cults and the date passing and needing to rework the belief system and rework the dogma in order to keep the believer's faith. And the fact that it didn't happen actually becomes a reinforcement of the belief rather than a reason to doubt that the gymnastics that can happen with this mentally is
Mhm.
astounding and impressive. It's a kind of superpower human beings have that we can take reality and twist it into a pretzel in any way or configuration we want to maintain and hold on to our belief systems and our emotional needs. And so I this is literally where cognitive dissonance theory and psychology comes from, is studying this exact behavior. So there's no surprise to me at all that that a literal doomsday cult like Jehovah's Witnesses are able to, retool the details, as long as the overall basic structure of the thing, as you said, holds. It's just a superpower we have. I am just endlessly amazed at human beings' ability to do that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the way I see belief is I see it like that poster that Mulder had on the back. I don't know if you're an
Oh
X-Files
yeah,
person,
of course.
but Mulder loses his sister. He spends his entire life trying to find her instead of admitting that, she's probably not with us, as most of us would probably have to come to terms with. And so he
Yeah.
thinks she was abducted by an alien, and he has this poster behind him, this iconic poster of a UFO that says, "I want to believe.
Yep.
I want to believe." And I think that it's that wanting for various reasons, whether it's sunk cost or that pain of cognitive dissonance when people feel that. It's that lead people to believe what they believe a lot of times. They want to believe it for some reason. There's something in it that they feel they're getting from that.
That's right. Well, exactly. And it is about feelings, and feelings are a legitimate driver of our behavior and what we do in our life. It's in fact I believe that the engine is of our behavior is made up and driven by, those emotional needs and reactions to a great degree. Because we're certainly not thinking our way through all of this, are we? You know?
No, we're not. In fact, most of us, well, I mean, back to the cognitive dissonance, right? We're literally trying to push aside our thinking to push our feelings to the forefront.
That's right. That's right. The way I kind of have it modeled out is that the thinking is there to figure out problems of survival and sequences of events and cause effect and all that. But it's mostly there to rationalize or justify our emotion based and morality based decision making.
Mhm.
Right. And that's really where we're driven from, I think, is those baser layers of our behavior, of our self, of our, personalities or whatever word you want to
Absolutely.
use for that stuff. I'm endlessly fascinated by the psychology of this stuff. It's been my mainline kind of dedicated study over all these years. I guess it's been 12 years now that I've been out, and this has been, my main pursuit and through my channel and stuff. How long have you been out, and what popped you in terms of like, okay, this is, I'm sure it wasn't one thing. Feel free to explain what your deconversion was.
So my 10th Shunniversary, I don't know when this will drop, but my 10th Shunniversary will be September the 2nd. Uh,
Shunniversary.
we actually celebrate that. It turned it into something called XJW Help Day, and I raise funds. And then I either go do random acts of kindness in my local community, or last year I did random acts of kindness in the XJW community. We gave out a scholarship of $1,000. We did some different things, helped a lot of people who were celebrating their first Christmas and things like that, so they get their kids some cool stuff. So yeah, I I left of my own accord. I did what's called disassociating. So most people, when they leave, they either fade away, which means they just kind of walk away, and they're fortunate enough that nobody maybe is after them.
Yep.
Because if they're after you, they may disfellowship you and shun you, or now they call it removing to pacify some governments in Norway. Recent stuff, won't get off on that tangent. But for
No,
me, I
we
wrote a
can talk
letter
about that,
saying,
but yeah,
what's that?
we can definitely talk about that, but
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but they're just trying to make it look like they don't shun people, which they've been
Right.
trying to do forever. And so I wrote a letter of disassociation saying I don't want to be part of you anymore. I don't want this. I'm done. Like I don't want to be identified ever again as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, what kicked that off? I mean, I think you alluded to it earlier. It's kind of death by a thousand cuts. but it started in 2008. Um, so you can tell me if I can't use any of this language on your channel because I don't
You can
know.
use whatever language you want
Okay,
on my channel.
okay. So I was very suicidal in 2008. It wasn't that I didn't, it wasn't really so much that I wanted to die, but I didn't see a point to life because being one of Jehovah's Witnesses is this carrot on a stick that you can never catch. And you're
Right.
never going to be good enough. No matter what you do, there's always something more you could have done. If you're out in field ministry knocking on doors, why didn't you do it one more hour this month? Because you have to turn in time and they keep track of you and all. Like it's just, it's a performance-based cult, and your performance is always judged, and it's always judged as unworthy, no matter what it is you do. Whereas other religions has the concept of grace, Jehovah's Witnesses term it undeserved kindness. So basically, you're still a piece of shit, and you need to know that. But God, in His infinite kindness, might let you live if you're lucky. Okay, when
Yeah.
the end comes. So
Okay.
you are undeserving of that kindness, and we can't let you ever feel good about yourself. So ran on that treadmill for a long time. Got to a point where I didn't see the purpose in any of this because I felt like, well, I can't be everything they want me to be. Uh, they constantly want me to do more in the congregation, and like I can barely keep up with life, and I don't know why. Like I'm really struggling here, and I just
Mhm.
felt like I was drowning. I was depressed, I was anxious. Uh, I didn't know why. I definitely couldn't have admitted that it was that thing, right? That it was being one of Jehovah's Witnesses that was contributing to that.
Right.
And so it was at my lowest point. I went to the elders in the congregation, hat in hand, and I said, "Look, I've got a few privileges here. I'm telling you now, I can't keep up with them. So I have to hand these back, and I don't know what's wrong with me, but I don't understand how other people do all of this. And I wish I could be a fly on the wall of your houses to see how this works because I can't keep up. I'm drowning." And I didn't say that I was suicidal. Okay. I never told them that, but I just told them what a struggle I was having. And their response to me was, well, Mike, in the end, we do what we want. And you're not doing this, so you must not want it. So they're basically telling me I don't want it. And I walked out of that meeting
Motherfuckers.
with my head very, very, very low.
Yeah.
I walked out to the car, and my wife was in the car. She had waited, and she was like, "So what'd they say?" I said, "Well, they said I didn't want it bad enough." And I kind of already felt that way. Like, if I just wanted it bad enough, I can make it happen, right? So
Yeah.
clearly the problem is me. And that's how that's part of the process, right? I know all this today, but back then I
Right.
didn't.
Right.
And so I told her, I guess I don't want it bad enough. And she looked at me and she said, "Honey, you want to kill yourself daily because you can't do this. So it can't be a matter of you not wanting it bad enough. You want it so bad that you don't even think you should be here because you can't live up to it. So it can't be a matter of want to, right?"
Good point.
So,
I'm assuming she was not a Jehovah's
no,
Witness,
she was one
or
of Jehovah's Witnesses too.
she was, but she
No,
wasn't struggling the way you were.
she wasn't struggling the way I was.
Got it.
No.
Okay.
And later I would find out that my wife really, well, we'll talk about it in a minute, but I
Yeah.
don't think she was ever super attached to it. I think
Kind of
she just
sounds
was
like it.
going
Yeah.
along.
Yeah.
And so, because she always had beliefs that she would say things to me, and I was like, "That's not what we believe." So I think she was kind of marching to the beat of her own drummer, and I was very, very indoctrinated. And
Right.
so I used to go on these, excuse me, I would go on these business forums all the time, and I always had these ideas I was chasing. And there was a person there who reached out to me and he said, "Hey, do you mind if I send you a private message? I think I see something in you, and you might want to consider it. And I said, well, hey, what do I have to lose? I don't want to be here anyway. So let him send me something. So it turns out he was an ADHD specialist. I owe this guy my life. Um, he said he was just referencing the way I couldn't stay focused, the amount of ideas that I had, the way I would start things, never finish them, and then act like it never existed and bounce to the next thing. And it was just this never ending. I had about a 2 week threshold for most things, and I'd go really hard for 2 weeks, and I'd be so into it, and then it was gone,
Yep.
just gone.
Yep.
And he sent me the book. He invited me to read the book Driven to Distraction
Mm.
by Hallowell and Rainey. And so I got the audio book because I can't read. I mean, I'm literate, but I can't focus on long blocks of text. So I got the audio book. I mean, here's your sign, right? And so I'm listening to the book. Jenny's my wife. We used to have an auto detailing business, and we were cleaning a car, listening to it at the same time. And she would do the inside and I do the out. And every so often she'd get out from the inside and just look at me and shake her head. And I just shrug, like, yeah, that's me. Like, this book is absolutely nailing me. And at the end of the book, I cried because it
Oh.
was the first time that anybody, and this excludes myself as well, that anyone had understood me.
Hmm.
Nobody, I didn't feel like anyone ever understood me, and I didn't either. I moralized everything about myself and judged myself with the harshness of the cult, right? Everything there
Yep.
is a moral issue. You just don't want it bad enough, right? And so I thought I was just a crappy person. Turns out I just had an executive function disorder, and learning that there was the existence of something called an executive function disorder really opened something up for me, and it helped me to see that people don't just do what they want. There's many times I have wanted to not eat sweets, but if there's a pan of brownies up there, it's on. That's why I don't have them in my house, right? And so
Got
we
it.
don't just do what we want all the time, or theoretically, we could almost be perfect if we wanted all the right things that Jehovah's Witnesses told us that we should want.
Right.
So that sent me down a path of learning about a lot of things. And I mentioned it earlier. One was empathy, because my wife used to ask me for something all the time. And I would just tell her, I'm so sorry, but I don't have that program. I don't know what it is you're asking for, and I don't get it. But I know that I'm trying, but I don't know what this is. And then I was reading a book, can't remember the name, but it was about emotional abuse, and it was talking about empathy. And I didn't know that was real.
Wow.
When your biggest
Wow.
hope in life revolves around your God destroying 8 billion people, you can't connect to anyone. Everyone is expendable. When you might have to shun your own son, daughter, mother, father, whatever,
Mm.
everyone is expendable. So, I
Mm.
mean, we could get into attachment theory. There's certainly no secure attachment inside of Jehovah's Witnesses. But yeah, I didn't know how to attach to people. I didn't know that empathy was real. And when I learned that it was, it just changed my whole life. It helped me to see what love could be, and helped me to attach to a lot of things. So off I went, learning what love was, learning about narcissism. Great book, The Narcissistic Family. That is all of it's kind of a clinician's book, but all about these families that were being observed by clinicians that appeared to be families where things like alcohol abuse were present, but
Hmm.
there was no alcohol. And I had told
Wow.
my mom before, because my dad was the product of an alcoholic parent. I had told my mom at some point, it's like I grew up in a home with alcoholism present, but dad never drank because he was narcissistic, she was codependent, and all of us kind of followed suit.
Hmm.
And then over time, I would come to realize that my parents were addicts. They were addicted to Jehovah's Witnesses. It's the ideology they were addicted to. That my parents were very hurt people that had escaped into this thing and that it dominated every aspect of their life. From the time they got up in the morning, it was every thought to the time they went to bed at night. They were willing to give up their kids for it. When we went on vacation, they had to get a hit because we had to go to a stupid Kingdom Hall and go to a meeting somewhere. Like, and everything revolved around this thing. And it was like, oh, this is a family of addiction. We are an active addiction. And so it took time, but for me, it was breaking down that there's no love here, that this place isn't good for me, and that I can't be here anymore. And I don't mean on this earth at this point. I mean, I can't be in Jehovah's Witnesses. I've got to get out.
Right. And this is about 10 years ago.
That was probably, I mean, goodness. So it took from 2008 to 2015 for me to leave.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah,
this
it's
is
a
a
10-year process
7 year
for me too.
process.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
it's sort of a death by a thousand cuts because it's never one thing that tends
right,
to snap it. It's a bunch of small things that just keep building.
right. And for me, it was I had to dissect the psychological component of it first. That's where it hit me.
Yeah.
Then I had to look at the doctrinal issues and learn about the cults from people on the outside, which was
Yeah.
terrifying, right? Not never
Yeah.
supposed to look at that. And I remember
Yeah.
asking my wife, hey, is it okay with you if I look at this stuff? Because if I do, I can't unsee whatever I see. And like that was a part of it too. My wife was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so like she was supposed to turn me in because I was starting to talk openly against the organization and to point out this isn't love. The way they talk about people on the outside is horrible. I don't want 8 billion people to die so that I can't be happy living on the graves of a dystopian paradise built on the graves of 8 billion people. There's something wrong here. And eventually, it took some time. I don't know how long, 6 months to a year, but eventually I got my wife to admit her doubts and that it was just creating an emotionally safe place where, hey, I've talked about what I doubt and what I'm struggling with. We talk about everything else in our life, but this, or I'm not hearing it from you, right? So can I get your thoughts on it? We all have doubts. If you don't like it, once you tell me your doubts, pick them up, put them in your pocket. We never have to discuss them again, but can we at least give it a try? And she started expressing some of her doubts. And then watch what you asked for, because then she was like, yeah, this is dumb. Let's go. And I was like, oh, hey, hold on. I'm not ready yet. So it was this process over a couple of years, I think, of a push pull between us as we were both going at our own pace, which was different from one another, but with open communication and not making any big decisions until we were both on board with a big decision, which eventually was writing goodbye letters to our families who were already shunning us anyway, because I have a brother who was shunned. So I have a brother who I was forced to shun 13 years before I left. Okay. One of
Mm,
my younger
mm,
brothers was shunned. And that was the one thing I could never get over. I always knew it was wrong.
mm.
And I would question it, but my mom would say, quote scripture like, those who Jehovah loves, he disciplines. And this is discipline and it's loving. And if you love him, you will go along with it.
The idea being that he will come to see the error of his ways
Yes.
and come back. And this is a
Yes.
tough love approach.
Yes.
This is kind of dogmatic within cultural within the JW world that this is the approach. This is why the shunning, or are there
Yes.
others in the JWs who are like, no, fuck those guys. We don't ever want them back. They're just useless pieces of shit. And that's
No,
why we're
it's
shunning them.
no, the dogma is you shun them because you love them.
That's
If you
yeah, because you
love
want
these
them to come
people, then
back.
you shun them.
Yeah.
And you do
Okay.
so to bring them back to the only way they can survive the end of this world. Because the God that I worship, because he's so great, is going to kill everybody. And
Right.
so, therefore, we have to get him back. So, I struggled with that so hard. And so, my big act of rebellion was eventually reaching out to him, finding him on Facebook, and saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I shunned you. I'm sorry I emotionally manipulated you in that way. I understand if you never want to speak to me again. Why would you? That was certainly not cool to do. And
Yeah.
he was like, hey, man, I get it. I grew up in it too, and ended up meeting him and his wife. And it was going to New York to meet him and his wife for the first time. It was that act of rebellion that made both of our families start shunning us before we ever were to be officially shunned. So some families are go-getters and they love you so much they'll shun you way before they have to.
Right.
And that was both of ours. And I'm not surprised. Both families are very authoritarian, very, rules and punishments driven. And so it wasn't really a surprise. I knew what would happen. I wasn't dumb. And
Right.
so they started shunning us. We kind of went the fade route for a bit, but then the elders started calling us and wanting to know, like wanting to see us. And Jenny and I made a pact that if they started that mess, we weren't going to play games. I hate games in any relationship. And if you want to play games, I'll just bounce. And so Jenny and I decided if they start coming around and they started stalking our house a little bit, then we'll write letters of disassociation to the congregation, goodbye letters to our families, and move on with our life, which is exactly what we did in September
Wow.
of 2015.
Wow. September 2013.
2015.
2015.
Yep.
2015. Right. 10 years ago. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Cool, cool. Yeah, it was around September 2013 when I was meeting my first skeptics and getting into the secular atheist skeptic world. 2013, what a year for me. So
Yeah, no,
2015
that's
was that year
big.
for you? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot going on in the early 20 teens
There
for a lot of
was, there
folks.
was.
Yes.
It was a very interesting. There was a period of time in the 2010s here where we've seen an awful lot of ramp up to cultic awareness
Mm.
on social media, documentaries, the streaming platforms and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a whole the JWs are significantly older than the Scientologists. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see the entire history, not in one lifetime, but not very far back, 1950, for Scientology and be very, very super familiar with all the history and everything. You have a longer track of stuff to go back. Actually, when did the JW start?
Late 1800s.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I
Yeah,
thought. It was
pretty
sort of,
much the late 1800s. Weren't
yeah,
officially named Jehovah's Witnesses. And I guess it depends on who you say who started Jehovah's Witnesses, and most people will credit Charles Taze Russell. But for me, he created the International Bible Students, and it was really Joseph Rutherford. It's the second man up who, in a coup, took over control of the organization, eventually named it Jehovah's Witnesses, and made it what it more like really started it down that path of what it is today.
right. Right. So, and did it always have the whole doomsday narrative and God's going to
Oh
just
yeah.
wipe all these people out and us saved people are the lucky chosen few?
Yes, there were iterations of it, but Charles Taze Russell was kind of born to some degree, and I'm overgeneralizing probably, but out of the Millerite movement, which was looking for the end in the
Mm.
mid 1800s, and it kind of inspired a lot of his beliefs and where he went. Connected to, or he was also inspired by the Seventh Day Adventists and others, and he took a lot of different things, and he got into pyramidology, and he was fascinated with the pyramids of Giza, and he was going to use their measurements, and he picked many different dates, and of
Right.
course he was wrong over and over again, but you know if you're committed, go for it, right? And
Yeah, no, I
he went
tell
all
you.
in.
I tell you, and the late 1800s was a real interesting time when you dive into mid to late 1800s, because this is the same time period when the Mormons are happening. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's there's 19th century, the spiritualism, and there's Madame Blavatsky is trolling around at this time, and late 1800s, right, early 1900s, when the theosophy becomes a thing, and there's just so many things going on, in America, and
Civil
England.
War in the Civil War hadn't been over for too
Oh my
long,
God! Then there's the Civil
right?
War, right? I mean,
So you have a
historically,
lot of
Jesus.
trauma and a lot of people
Yeah.
looking for something, right?
Yes. And
Looking for
the, and
hope.
and it was amazing diving down the Mormon rabbit hole to learn how the mid 1800s, the early to mid 1800s in the United States were a magical time when people were conversing with fairies and angels and nymphs, and I mean just things were just appearing, and people were just, showing up at the tavern. Hey, you won't believe what happened to me on the walk down here, right? And just all these stories that Joseph Smith is just one of many who had encounters with angels and dug up tablets and dug up treasures, and treasure hunting is a thing. I mean, it was just a wildly different time, for these things to anchor, to take, hold or root in as belief systems, and some survived, many didn't,
Mhm.
because of the charisma of the leader, or the number of ardent followers, and the conflicts and factioning, because they would often start as one thing and split up into three other things, and one of them takes off and the other is obscure, fade into obscurity. It's an endlessly fascinating story to go down the rabbit holes of origin stories of all these different groups. Have you
Absolutely.
found that to be the way with you, with your religion? Did you go all the way down that rabbit hole yourself?
Oh, yes. So Jehovah's Witnesses don't know anything about their religion.
Right, just
I
like
know far more
Scientologists.
about Jehovah's Witnesses
Yep.
after leaving. I also know far
Yep.
more about the Bible after leaving
Yep.
um, than I ever did when I was in it.
Isn't that
And
funny?
was that?
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
ignorant they are of their own
Yes, of their
belief
own.
set.
Yes.
It boggles me, and yet I was one, so I can
Yeah, same
understand it.
here.
But then you come out and you're like, how? It's almost like you're looking at a different version, a different person, rather than a different version of yourself. It's almost like you were literally somebody else, because you think so differently after you get out.
Absolutely. And, after I got out and I reconnected with some folks, one of my former friends who had left and been shunned a long time before I ever left it, he said uh, something to the effect of like, I knew it was only a matter of time. I can't believe you lasted that long because I questioned everything. And to be fair, even when I was in, I would get in trouble for my questions.
Uh,
I'll never forget, I asked my mom one time when I was a teenager, why is everyone fake? Like nobody in the real world speaks this way. Why are our publications fake? We have publications made for kids, and there's quotes in there from teenagers that supposedly said X, Y, or Z. And it's like no teenage kid said that. No kid wrote that. There's no way. And I saw a lot of things. I knew something was wrong, but I was always a very word literal person.
mm,
Um, some interesting things just about who I am. I was always very word literal, and Jehovah's Witnesses call their faith the truth,
mhm.
and I truly bought into that. And I
Yep.
could argue all the points using they have an answer for everything. It may be the wrong answer, but they have an answer. And to
Yep.
them, that's all that matters.
Yep.
And to me, for a long time, I thought they were the right answers. But I had problems with parts of the Bible. What really happened to Jephthah's daughter, I think we all know. she was sacrificed, just like Jephthah said that she would be in the Bible. He said he'd offer whatever came out of his house as a burnt offering.
Jesus, I didn't realize
Yeah,
there
so
was
I mean, it
a.
said, it says that he would offer the first thing that came out of his house as a burnt offering, and it wasn't a goat, it was his daughter. I mean, come on, dummy. And like, I don't know what he thought was gonna run out first. His kid came out to meet him, and I mean, the virgins wept. I mean, like, there's lots of stories and apologetics around it, but if you need apologetics, then there must be something to apologize for. So, like, it's messed up. And there was just a lot of things that I saw. The guy who I can't, Uriah, something like that, who studied the Ark of the Covenant when it was falling, and God instantly killed him because you weren't supposed to touch it. I mean, come on. He wasn't, I don't think there was evil intent there,
Yeah.
but witnesses would say, God could read his heart and knew that he was like trying to get fame by saving it or something. Well, sure, let stupid thing fall. Like, apparently, it's just there's a lot of stories that didn't add up. I mean, there's so many, and I could go on and on. Noah's Ark and how everything fit on that, and just there's a million things. Why
Right.
Jesus is one perfect sacrifice? Because they would use it as a scale. Like Jesus was a perfect man and he died to save all mankind. But Adam and Eve were two people who were perfect, who lost perfection. So is it like a half off sale? How come Jesus? And why do we have to bring in a ringer from heaven? It still wasn't a normal person. So how does any of this equate to justice? None of this makes sense.
Nope.
But this is how, so I saw things, but I mean, it's again, it's death by a thousand cuts going in and coming out, and they've got so many hooks in you, and you're so tangled up in this mess that it's like I knew if I left, I'd lose everyone that I knew. I didn't know who I was without this thing. Um, it was my whole life. So at 38, I lost everything pre 38. It
Man.
was gone,
Wow. Yeah.
except for
I
my
hear
wife.
you. Man. Wow. And it's that part of it that really is the truly objectionable part. It's not,
Yeah.
I I've had my fill now of oddball, goofy beliefs that people get up to, and there's a saturation point. I think maybe you've run into it too, where you start you want to understand when you come out of a cult what the hell happened to you, right? Like, so maybe just to understand it, maybe so you can prevent it from happening again, maybe so you can help other people. Maybe there's other, I'm surprised. I'm constantly surprised by people who come out of a culty, abusive situation and don't want to understand anything about the situation, right? I'm always a little bit like, really? But okay, fine. That such people exist. But I think most of us, I think it's true that most of us want answers. And when you start pursuing answers, I think one of the things you're going to run into pretty damn quick is this dichotomy, or this comparison of belief and faith versus what people do with it,
Hmm.
and that there's what's in your head as religion or as faith, and then there's the activity, the practice, and carrying out what you're believing. And one can inform the other in very, very wildly different ways. Not obviously not everybody who goes down the Islamic
Hmm.
faith path becomes a radicalized terrorist.
Of course.
Very, very few of them do. Numerically speaking, it's a tiny, 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 statistically almost irrelevant number of Islamic followers who become radicalized terrorists in the name of those beliefs. So it's not true in any way that belief causes someone to become radicalized all by itself. And this is one of those very interesting sort of things you kind of learn along the way. You go, well, what the hell does cause radicalization then? Well, you can take these beliefs and you can have an insular, isolated group, and you can, isolate, manipulate, and control people into just about anything you want. And That's what causes the radicalization. It's not necessarily just the fact of a belief. And you just go, okay, this is interesting. At least for me, it certainly has been. Because then you learn that it's not, the belief in Jesus or Buddha or a Messiah that is causing all this crazy shunning and nonsense. It's these other things we're going to add to those beliefs and the way we're going to, be faithful or holy. And it's usually some fucking asshole who starts some group or sect or cell or whatever word you want to use for it, who gets people all riled up and goes, the only way this belief set makes any sense, right, is away we go. So having said all that, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I love this discussion. I mean, it's obviously so. Today I work as a cult recovery coach, and I
Yeah,
primarily work with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and I do that full time. And one of the things that's hard for a lot of people to parse is what part of this is, can we just blame the cult itself and the coercion of Jehovah's Witnesses for this?
yeah,
And what part of this might actually be who, let's say, just in a typical example, our parents were? Okay, there's a reason that my parents went down the path they went down.
yeah,
And it's not just Jehovah's Witnesses fooled these sweet, amazing, loving, awesome, best ever healthy people into doing terrible things. It's these people were already hurt and already deficient in certain ways, and we all are.
yeah,
But the ways that they were lacking were congruent in certain ways with what Jehovah's Witnesses presented, and therefore they could go into that and follow that doctrine. I'm under, so a lot of people are like, well, if not, if but for Jehovah's Witnesses, I'd have an amazing relationship with my loving parents. Eh, I mean, probably not. I know I'm pretty blunt, but like I wish that was the case. But I'm
yeah,
I'm under no illusion that had it not been for Jehovah's Witnesses, my parents would have been amazingly healthy and we would have had a great time. Now, perhaps they would have gotten some real help instead of this candy, this junk food that they ended up getting into that has all these bad ideas. Maybe they could have gone down a better path and gotten some real therapy, some real help, but they did not.
yeah,
And they fell into this other thing instead. And of course, the witnesses aren't going to tell you all the gross parts right up front. They don't come to your door, knock on it, and say, hey, you know, would you like to perhaps destroy your entire family someday and shatter everything you knew and become extremely isolated? That's not their sales pitch, right?
nope,
But they rope you in with all, I mean, just like any narcissist, they're charismatic, they know how to spin a good game, they talk about all these pretty things you're gonna have that get you in it, and then over time you start seeing who they really are, and they
yeah,
start showing themselves because they can't keep it up forever, and you start
mhm,
seeing it, and by the time you're roped in, but you also could leave if you were healthy enough to do so. And most of the people who are going to get that far just aren't.
that's
They
right.
want to believe.
Well, exactly, and I think that my take on that wanting to believe part has been that it is driven by underlying emotional needs.
Sure.
That's been
Yeah.
my sort of psych
Yes.
take on it,
100%.
Um,
Fear of death.
oh my God, right? I
You
mean,
know, growing up in a dysfunctional, abusive family and you're looking for community. I mean, there's a million things, right? That you could,
absolutely. I mean, meaning, identity, purpose,
yeah.
community. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many check boxes that these
Yep.
groups absolutely go out of their way, especially in the early stages,
Yep.
to fulfill, right? Especially the community component. You look at all these people, we're all on the same page.
Mhm.
There's nothing, I was lamenting this the other day, but it's true, and maybe lament isn't even appropriate. I don't know. It was for me from how I was looking at it in the time, but at the same time, it might be a good thing, but I don't know. There's nothing like the community that you get in a cult. There's just nothing quite like it. Maybe on a sports team, if you're really into the sports, I mean, if it's your life, and everybody else on the team is just as dedicated, like at a pro level or something, like this is just what you do. That's the level of community you get in these groups. It's everybody is so marching in lockstep, and and there's an instant acceptance. There's an emotional satisfaction and there's a security and a stability that brings that just doesn't exist when you kick the struts out from all of that, because there's so much nasty nonsense going on in the group and there's so much overt control. You're like, okay, well, the cost of admission is too high. But then you leave and you're like, oh shit. Now I see why I was staying all that time, because there ain't nothing out here like that.
Mm.
I can't meet with people at the same level and agree on so many things, you know what I mean? Or you struggle to find that kind of connection outside of, say, an intimate partner relationship where, yeah, that's kind of similar. But I don't know. It's just something I've been pondering recently. It's not a value thing. I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. It's just kind of is what it is. Has that been your experience?
So I would say, so I guess my response would be, yeah, you're right. There is no community like that community. Um, and I can't speak to the realities of the Scientology community, so I'm just going
Sure.
to speak to my own.
Of
And I don't know
course.
how
Yeah.
yours was, but yeah, we all believe the same. Um, and there was some comfort in that. Well, I think there was comfort in that because we were taught that there was comfort in that. Today, I love the diversity of thought that I get to be exposed to on the outside.
Absolutely.
I will say that
Yeah.
I often feel very alone and isolated in certain ways because I think I've had unique experiences, and because of the way I grew up, let's say apolitical or and things like that, like I think that I have viewpoints on things that don't align with the party lines that are drawn at times. And so I don't neatly fit into boxes. And I often am a
Right.
man on an island to some degree in a lot of
Right.
ways. But, and that can be very lonely at times. But I found groups of people that I can discuss disparate ideas with in respectful ways and play with thoughts and ideas and have fun with that. The community of Jehovah's Witnesses felt very tight knit, but to me, I guess it was all an illusion because it was all very shallow. And
Mm.
there was a lot of, and I don't know how it was in Scientology, but Jehovah's Witnesses are full of backstabbing, backbiting. People are constantly tearing each other down. They say that they would die for their brother or sister at the big A when it comes, if they needed to like protect somebody. Like they would die for one another, but they won't talk to each other in the Kingdom Hall because, you know, somebody made a snide remark about something else, something someone did. There's a lot of, it is this middle school environment where everyone is immature and because you can't tolerate anything else. And there's all this narcissism and codependency within the organization playing off of each other. There's these personality clashes and nobody gets along and people won't work with other people out door to door. They refuse to get in the car with them. And it's just like this
Oh.
petty petty atmosphere where you realize at the end of the day, you own these people are only your friends and you only have community as long as you go to the Kingdom Hall. Jenny
Yeah.
and I twice, for different reasons, didn't go to meetings for well over a year. Not one person checked on us to make sure we weren't dead in our house.
Wow.
No one.
Oh,
No
wow.
one asked if we still existed. We showed up at the Kingdom Hall and all of a sudden, oh, I'm so glad to see you. Are you? Are you really? Because I can completely disappear and you don't care. You only care if someone tell if this won't make sense probably to a lot of your audience. They have traveling overseers who kind of like go from local congregation to congregation to like keep things in line and make sure everything's in order. And when they come, suddenly the local elders need to answer for what's going on. And then you might have them start calling you because now they're
Uh,
interested in you. But it's only because they reminded you exist because they have to answer for you. It's not because they care. And you
right.
just realize that it's all fake juice. It's not, it's as fake as everything else. These people aren't really your friends. They won't die for you. I mean, and honestly, I don't know. Do we have to have friends that we have undying loyalty to either? I think some of the the qualities that that even I, I too have reminisced on at times. I'm like, I don't know. I want my friends, like, you don't have to die for me. It's cool. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, of course.
you have families too. If we get robbed or something and one of us is getting shot, if it's me, you don't have to take it from me. It's okay.
Right.
I don't
Exactly.
know. There's just a lot of the qualities that I admired in the community that today I think I don't admire as much. And I like all the differences. I do sometimes miss what felt like super easy community because you could just
Hmm.
walk in and go to any Kingdom Hall anywhere and everyone believed the same.
Yeah. That's what
So
I'm
like
talking about.
I get what you're saying. Like there was
Yeah.
that. And again, I don't know how it was in Scientology, but with Jehovah's Witnesses, the backstab, just oh my gosh, there was so much going on behind the scenes and
Of
families and
course.
stuff, and it was just so awful. It was such an awful place.
No, I hear you. I want to be clear. I'm not yearning for the old days here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, I get
it's
that.
really just a comment on the degree of separation in our current cultural milieu, right? In our
Oh, for
society
sure,
these
like
days.
politically and such. Yeah.
I mean, isolation, divisiveness,
Yeah,
distrust are the orders of the day these days. And I think that was what got me thinking about
get that.
how you certainly absolutely are nailing it in so many ways in terms of the backstabbing and the immature relationships and the lack of emotional maturity and stuff. I mean, that's rife, and I think every cult exhibits those, and certainly Scientology did too. Especially because when you're in a cult, you're in a group that is about confession culture and about
Mhm.
no transparency or boundaries. And so everybody's in everybody else's business all the time. And, it definitely, don't get me wrong, right? It goes way too far pretty goddamn fast. But there's still something to miss, I think, just to circle back to the idea that you can walk into a room and know with a degree of stability and even security that everybody in this room is on the same page when it comes to what really matters,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That there's a moral, meeting of the minds here. That there is in a way, emotionally, but of course, you're absolutely right. The you can't fully. It's funny. It's a funny thing because it's not a pure thing, and so I can't. I'm only trying to extract this one little bit out of it and just make a comment about it because you can't at the same time that I'm saying you have this meeting of the moral mind and the and an emotional community, you also can't fully trust anybody in this room because they might report on your ass, right?
Oh, yeah. And they may
Right?
say that they have the same moral values as you. It's talk is cheap. Find out what they do at home behind closed doors.
Well,
right?
that's for sure. That's for sure.
You know,
That's for damn sure.
and that's the
Yeah.
complication of being human, isn't it? You
Yes.
know, it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, we're all very complex.
We are. We are. We are multitudes, as they
Yes,
say.
yes,
Um, and I love that stuff. I
me
really
too.
do. It's been a fun journey with a lot of ups and downs. These last many years, plumbing the depths of understanding what this stuff is about and why it works its magic on people the way that it does, and how accountable people can be held, and maybe how not accountable some people should be for certain things. It's the whole victimization thing, right? It's like,
Sure.
well, yes, I was victimized, but if we're really going to be honest, and you come to a point along the lines of recovery where I think you have to be. Unfortunately, I don't know that everybody gets to this place, but I think it's very necessary that you get to a place where you're willing to have that conversation about, yeah, I also victimized other people
Hmm.
and myself in the process of this. It wasn't just about all the things that were done to me. Yes, all these things were done to me, but I kind of turned around and gave too, and
Hmm.
I think that has to be part of the conversation at some point along the lines.
I
It's
mean,
a
yeah,
yeah.
it's one of the things that I hear a lot that honestly kind of drives me a little crazy is there's this thing that is often said in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community about Jehovah's Witnesses, but they're such good people. And I'm sorry, they're not, and neither were you when you were one, and neither
Yeah,
was I when I was one, right?
yeah.
And I wasn't a great person. I may have had, well, won't spoil too much. We talk about things on Jubilee, but certainly, we all have our differing views, but intent versus what we actually did, and it's this complicated thing, and I guess that's where I don't believe in good and bad people. I just think we're all
Right.
somewhere along a spectrum of unhealthy to healthy, hopefully growing towards healthier. But I just I th so I think that even saying there are such good people is kind of a, I don't know that we can do that in the first place. They're capable of good things, but I don't normally walk around singing the praises of any group that shuns their kids till they commit suicide, that robs them of education. Well, they just changed a little something Friday on that, but
Oh, they won't be
whatever.
robbing people of their educations now? Is that the new party line?
The new party line is that it's a personal choice, which it kind of always has been, but you used to be able to get in trouble for it if you had privileges in the congregation, like you could be somewhat disciplined and have things taken away from you. But now they're not to judge you at all should you decide to go pursue higher education. But that was a 30-second soundbite in a 17-minute piece that they put together. The other 15 and a minutes or so was slamming college for being dangerous and
There you go.
to your
Yeah.
spiritual health. So it's sound bites for PR. It's garbage. But
Yeah.
these people, they don't treat people well. They're
Right.
okay with 8 billion people dying. They're okay um, letting their child die, not taking a blood transfusion because they've been told that they can't take them. And so that it's okay to let that person die, let a child who can't make their own decisions die a martyr for this thing. Like, there's no other group that I think we were just taught to think we were such great people. So on the outside, we're still, and we want to believe mom and dad are good people because we want to believe that someday they're going to leave and then we're going to have that big happy family that we always wanted. But that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
And it's and I understand it's hard to wrap our minds and hearts around that, but that's not likely to happen. If it
No.
does, cool, but it's not likely to. And so we have to grieve all of this. This whole thing is a massive grieving process. There's just so much that we have to learn to let go of.
I agree completely. I agree completely. I think you nailed it. Um, I really appreciate the good bad thing because it's a false model, right? It's a false
Yeah,
way
life's
of
not
looking at.
binary.
Well, exactly. And even if you go spectrum with it and go, okay, well, there's more good or less good, right? It's still this quantity that's kind of like, what are you talking about? Like there's this kind of idea that you can look at a person and there's this, I don't know, there's somehow magically or spiritually or biologically imbued with some quality of that's called goodness,
Hmm.
and it's just this thing that sits there like this energy or this white light or this sort of quantity of protoplasm or something. I don't even know what it's supposed to be that they're supposed to carry around with them, and this makes them a good person because they think constructive, well-intentioned thoughts about other people or act on constructive, well-intentioned thoughts for people, so therefore they're good people, versus these other people who, have this black mass or black energy or are born somehow deficient in the white energy. And therefore they're bad people, they're evil people. And you're like, they're, if this is what I mean by false model. It's like none of this is real. That none of what you're imposing on these people or yourself is real. There are other ways of thinking about us that are far more accurate, I think,
Oh yeah, I've met people with who give lip service to great ideals who in actuality do not act on those. I've
Yeah.
met people who I know believe some things that I don't like or respect that I think are very harmful, but they're absolutely lovely in the way they treat you. And it's just again, that's why it's so hard to judge people because we're
Yeah.
all a product of so many things. I
Yes.
mean, I was once very anti-gay, right? Anti-LGBTQIA because that's what I was taught.
Yep.
And I mean, my dad was just anyway. He's not
I hear
he
you.
was not nice. Um, and I was around that, and I held a lot of bad ideas. But that's why I also have a hard time judging people because I can't to just judge you in one moment of your life is pretty tough because I can't know who you will grow to be. And I might be able to say like, you're not good for me today or something like that. Maybe we can't hang out. This isn't a good relationship for me. But in one moment, I don't know who you're going to become or what you're capable of in either direction.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just, I just try to, I don't know, my motto, a lot of my podcast, my first podcast was called This JW Life, and it was my personal story, still out there. And the way I ended every episode was love others, do no harm, and go be happy. And I don't know, I just kind of try to live by that. And if I do that, life seems to turn out all right.
There you go. There you go.
I did
Exactly.
add
Because,
love yourself and others. Love
well,
yourself
yeah,
and others, do no harm, and go be happy.
yeah, I mean, all we can do is the best we can do, right?
Yeah.
Because the judgment factor is always going to be there, but the self judgments and the judgment in the moment can be so
Yeah.
catastrophically wrong
Yep.
when you step back and get a big picture perspective. And sometimes you don't get that perspective for days, weeks, months,
Oh, yeah.
years, that you can look back and go, oh, I was beating myself up the whole time. I carry this you can carry this book of negative feedback around with you in your mind, 101 reasons why your life is going nowhere and you suck, right? And it's and then you give yourself a little bit of time and you realize, no, my life is going somewhere and I don't suck, but
Mhm.
you can't see it. So which judgment's valid, right? Well, it's all perspective, and I think that's what we really mean when we're looking at the whole good versus bad thing. But
Yeah.
because we have to acknowledge the fact that in history, ourselves and global history, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You
Sure.
know, you can get to really, really, really dark places, thinking you're helping people,
Oh,
and that
sure.
was certainly true for me as a Scientologist.
Yeah.
What do you think? I wanted to ask you about this. Different tack, maybe
Yeah.
along the same lines. Because the one thing I hear from ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, in the hundreds that I've talked to, is a common thing that comes up is a lot of angst about, we were happy about 8 billion people dying, right? We were really down with, let's murder all these people, right? Let's have God, let's stand here and watch as God destroys his own creation and all of these souls. And I guess the assumption is that in killing them, they are either dead forever, or is there a hell in Jehovah's Witnesses?
No, they're just dead.
They're just dead.
The grave's the grave. You become worm food.
Yeah, you're just
Done.
gone.
That's
You're
it.
just
Yep.
you're just not around anymore.
Yeah. So they
So
use one of the most natural things, one of the most natural parts of life as the threat against you, that you will
right,
die.
that you will die, and because the promise is the carrot is infinite life or immortality, or life amongst God, and what could be better than that, right? In the Garden of Eden, this
Yeah.
most ideal of ideal existences, I suppose. Did
Well,
you?
add to that that you would never, if
Yeah,
were you're living in the end of this world, you could theoretically then walk right in to the new system, walk right in to it won't be a paradise at first because God will, well, have wrecked everything on this planet and there'll be bodies everywhere. But let's not think about that. But you could theoretically never have to die. That is quite a carrot. You never even
right.
have to die to achieve a heaven or a whatever. You can walk right into it.
Right, right. That immortality thing is where JWs and Scientologists would meet, because the idea of personal spiritual immortality and a life moving forward into infinity, that you get to be in the driver's seat,
Yes.
is very much tuned in with that. God's not part of the picture. You become God in the Scientology framework, right? But that carrot is very, very similar carrot. Um, so it seems like, in looking back, one of the things that is used most powerfully to isolate and control Scientologists is a twist up of the concept of responsibility. That in Scientology, and there are other systems that do this too, um, you're responsible because of Hubbard's redefinition of the term for everything.
Yeah.
The first gate of entry there is you're responsible for everything that happens to you. You pulled it in, they say. You created circumstances or weaknesses in your own personal armor that allowed in bad things to happen to you, and you're the cause of that because of your misdeeds, your sins, your, what they call overts in Scientology. Things you did that weren't okay. You knew the second you did it, it wasn't okay. This isn't some hidden thing that is coming to get you. Right? And in a way, it smacks of sort of a karmic justice that you're bringing in on yourself, because you sinned. So that's the first layer of it. And then as you really read into what Hubbard is saying, and accept the full scope and literal meaning of what he's saying, you come to a place where you have to conceive that you are actually responsible for everything everywhere, that there isn't anything going on that you don't have a hand in. And that really, ultimately, the creation of this entire universe is really on you and me and everybody else. It's everybody doing this together mutually. But this definition of responsibility is a real twist up, and it's one of the things that I deal with a lot in helping former Scientologists unwind that, because it's a very, very, for Hubbard, it was an incredibly useful belief to instill in followers because it relieves him of any responsibility for anything ever. It's a perfect mind trap of circular logic where anything that's bad that happens, well, you must have done something to pull that in. It's not that the organization victimized you. It's not that this asshole raped you. It's not that this person abused a child. It's on them. They're the ones who pulled it in, right? And the organization is flawless. We have all the truth. We have all the answers. We explain. Hubbard literally said, Scientology is the one thing senior to life because it explains life. So he puts it on this pedestal,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Yeah, above everything, right, is
Okay.
Scientology. So it can do no wrong. I say all of this. I'm encapsulating an awful lot of crap into,
Sure.
a few sentences here because I want to ask you, this is one of the key pillars of mind fuckery in Scientology, right? And it sounds to me like the Armageddon thing is a key point in the Jehovah's Witnesses because so many former members talk about it, right? As like
Mhm.
this, like, oh, I just hated that. It's such bullshit. I can't believe they do that. This big regret, right? That you buy into that. Um, is that comparable to what I'm talking about with the responsibility thing, or what do you think is like the big, things for ex members that they just go, man, did they fuck me on this one,
Yeah, so that's interesting. So responsibility. So you said you're the cause of everything. So let's play
Yeah,
off of that real quick.
sure.
So for Jehovah's Witnesses, I think it would be um, certainly a lot of people. I mean, look, it's a misogynistic, pretty horrible cult. And so certainly when things happen, like, okay, like I was struggling and I went to the elders and it was my fault. I clearly didn't want things enough. I wasn't enough, and therefore things were not going well for me. If you're a sister in the congregation and you were assaulted in some way, you're going to be taken through a judicial committee of three elders. You're going to have to sit there in front of three men who are basically going to probably try to pin this on you.
Yep.
They're going to try to, what were you wearing? What did you do? How did you participate and bring this upon yourself?
Yep.
Whether you're a child, an adult, whatever. There's this, we'll say it went as far as like you literally bring everything upon you or you're like attracting some energy. But there is just this notion of it's like really you're a problem. We don't want to deal with you if something is hurting you. We don't want to deal with your emotions. We don't want to see you cry. We don't want to feel your feelings. There's no empathy here. Let's just figure out how somehow it was your fault so you could have had control so you can make it better.
That's right.
Right? So there's
Yep.
just this idea that somehow we could control things or that we should have been in control of everything or well you're 30 now, why don't you have X, Y, or Z in your life? I don't
Right.
know, because it's a number. I don't know what that means. I'm 30 now. Like do you does everybody get a diploma and like X amount of friends and a house or something? Like what did I miss out on? So there's like a lot of weird expectations in that way.
Yep.
But I think that the main thing, and I think you kind of touched on it, was this notion of Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want to talk about this responsibility for everything, Jehovah's Witnesses have this concept of blood guilt. So if you, and I don't, again, don't ask me the scriptural verse, but it's taken from the Bible. And it's basically like, if I have the opportunity to teach Chris about Jehovah and to save your life potentially because you could become one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'm going to save your life through Armageddon by helping you to come to an accurate knowledge and relationship with God. And on that day I met you, I kind of shied away from it because I was embarrassed and I didn't want to preach to you or something, or I didn't put my all into it. And you therefore don't become one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and you had a chance to be saved, and I didn't participate because I shied away in some way and I didn't save you, then your blood will be expected from me. I'm responsible for you not taking to quote the truth and being saved. And at Armageddon, I'm going to be killed because I had a chance to save you, Chris, and I didn't. And so, I mean, blood guilt can extend to so many things. You
Mm,
don't maintain your car and there's a problem with the brakes and you're in a wreck. Well, your blood and someone was to get hurt or died. Well, you're blood guilty for them before God. Doesn't matter what the courts say, doesn't matter what really happened, you're blood guilty. And so there's this savior complex that we were given. We were to rescue everyone, and there's an extreme lack of boundaries there. And as someone who works with a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I would say that one of the things that hurts people the most is that they feel responsible for others and they manage everybody else's emotions and try to make sure everybody else is happy.
yeah.
That includes the Jehovah's Witnesses in their life. Even if they're shunned, they're still trying somehow to save these people as though it is their responsibility to save these
Yeah.
people and
Yeah.
as though they even could save these people. There's no allowance. So a lot of people hurt themselves greatly by continuing to chase these emotionally unavailable people, trying to save them, trying to help them, feeling somehow responsible. And um, yeah, it's never gonna make you happy. You're not gonna get what you're hoping for. And in the meantime, you're so focused on other people and saving people who aren't raising their hand and asking a question. They're not looking for you to save them. You're just going and knocking on their door at random and trying to save them. And they're not interested.
That's
They
right.
didn't ask you there.
Yep.
And in doing all of that, you're exhausting yourself and not spending energy on your own healing, on building your own life, on facing your own issues left over from the cult. And
Yep.
so it ends up creating a lot of pursuits of others and denial of self.
Absolutely. I think that speaks to the fact that um, we keep the habits even if we drop the beliefs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we keep the action. I mean, as they say in neuroscience, I mean, action patterns, right? You keep the neuro pathways are the same, even if you're not couching them in, Xenu or L. Ron Hubbard or, coming Armageddon, you still feel this compulsion. It's an emotional thing because this is how it gets down into those layers, right? It's like it doesn't just, and this is where I agree that um, with these statements out there that religion or dogma is not just a list of beliefs any more than morality is a list of rules of good and bad. There's more to there's a third dimension to it. There's a richness to these things that these groups kind of get their anchors into or rewrite for you and make you feel, well, in order to be a good person, I need to, fill in the blank. And you leave the group, and those statements of what you need to be a good person are still valid for you because they're until they get examined, you don't question them. Why would you? This is what makes me a good person. And it's no longer about maybe believing in Xenu, but it's still about caring about other people to the point that you need to save them, even when they don't want to be saved and didn't want you knocking on their door with this good intention any more than they want you knocking on the door to talk about Xenu and your good intentions with that. They don't want it. And you feel this need this compulsion even to go interfere in people's lives or to go do these things. And I think that's the more long-term damage that the cults do, and twisting up responsibility is one way in which that's done. I think, the Armageddon fear, or the idea that immortality is possible, or that there is this idyllic conditions that we can achieve somehow. And it's those, I think, are the hardest parts to let go of, because we don't even know we're holding on to them for without a lot of introspection and looking, and I think education, right? Having said all that, what's your take?
Well, playing off of that, I get people who reach out to work with me at times, and they may be, later in life, 60s, 70s, even at times, and maybe they walked away from Jehovah's Witnesses very early on in life, but maybe they never even believed it, never attached to the doctrine,
Oh,
but they're looking at their life and, huh, most of my relationships are with narcissists, and I've never pursued anything that I want. Like, I still don't kind of don't know who I am. I've just kind of gone along with things, and
yeah.
I haven't pursued, like, why does my life still it's kind of like that narcissistic family book was about families that looked like families where alcoholism was present. It's like there's these narcissistic families, or these families of narcissism, who were these individuals, I guess, who left this cult, and the culture came with them. The
Mm-hmm.
psychology, the worldview, I mean, like, you mentioned Armageddon. It's what's on the other side of Armageddon that everybody's trying to achieve, this paradise that's going to be restored for them.
Yep.
And so a lot of us grew up, many, if not most, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses don't have any aspirations because ours were provided for us. They were paradise. So they're going to be happy at some point in the future. But now they don't even have that particular hope. So they're just living a life trying to get by, trying to figure out oftentimes survival. And that's just because of the condition they're left in when they're shunned and everything is ripped away from them. And you've got to survive before you can thrive. So you gotta have some sort of a foundation. But a lot of them get stuck there and lost in just trying to survive, and they don't even know how to think about, well, I don't know what I want doesn't matter. So I can't even fathom having my own goals, my own aspirations,
Right.
and then to actually go for them. Like if I don't believe that I matter because I was told that my whole life, why would I go for anything that I'm interested in, because I don't matter in the first place enough
Yeah.
to pursue that thing. So it's just, yeah, they really, I always say that you can take the Jehovah's Witness out of the Kingdom Hall, or, you take the person out of Jehovah's Witnesses, but that doesn't take the Jehovah's Witnesses out of the person. You still
Exactly.
you've gotta work on that. And it's like a virus. If you don't work hard on it, and then because of the doomsday scenario and the United Nations and all their governmental stuff. And then there's something happening in the Middle East, or Russia invades Ukraine, or the United States, elects Donald Trump, or whatever. Then all of a sudden, here comes worry, and then worry leads to thoughts of Armageddon. And the next thing you know, you're running back to this thing. And people return
Exactly.
to it. They return at
Yes.
numbers that I think are, don't have any statistics. Anecdotally, I'm afraid that people return at a higher number than a lot of ex Jehovah's Witnesses would like to admit or know. And
Yep.
that's not just me trying to be Debbie Downer, that's my concern. And it's
No,
because people
yep.
aren't working to root this out. They're living in denial of it, just like they lived in denial of it when they were in. They didn't want to look at it when they were in. They don't want to look at it when they're out. And I get that. And I understand why, because it hurts like hell. But when you're in hell, the only way through it is to go through it. Like that's all you can do. The only way around is through. So you can't go
Well,
around it. You got to go through.
you
And
do. Yeah.
kudos to everyone who does, and a big hug to everyone who's not ready yet. And I hope they get ready.
Well, that's why I bring these points up, is because I want people to understand that there is more. Leaving the
Yeah.
cult is just step one.
Oh, that's
It's
just the
right.
beginning.
It's just the start.
It's the
And
beginning, and you're
yeah.
already behind.
Like, oh my God, right? And
And I
people
don't say that to
really,
be discouraging, but it's the beginning, but you're already behind. So you're gonna have to work at this. You're not going to passively find yourself in a much more healthy place. You have to put work into it just like you do at the gym or anywhere else if you want to get healthier.
that's right. And of course, you and I both work with people
Yep.
post cult. So of
Sure.
course we're going to sit here preaching this, but it's true. I just haven't
Yeah.
found anyone, and I've met, I think at this point, I can comfortably say I've met thousands. I've certainly met hundreds of ex-cult members at this point. And I haven't found one who came up to me and said, "Oh yeah, I just walked away and everything was great." I haven't, not that it's doom and gloom. I want to be clear about this. It's not like you can't have a life or you can't move on, but wouldn't it be nice to have a life that isn't manipulated by these gurus and these narcissists who continue to have a hold on us in ways that are really, really surprising. I mean, you mentioned conspiracy theory and stuff, right? Because there's so many ex-Scientologists who just glom on to conspiracy theory
Of
thinking,
course.
right? Because they had it when they were in,
Hmm.
or, it's kind of a proclivity is made in that, a tendency is made in that direction. And they come out and they never connect that way of thinking to Scientology. They're happy to get rid of L. Ron Hubbard's crap, but they still subscribe to his way of thinking. And
Hmm.
that's what is the hard part that's where I think the work is overcoming that, because I think it has to do with again, emotions and morality.
100%. I see ex Jehovah's Witnesses at times on subreddits and various things, and they'll claim that, oh, I just left it and my life's great. And I'm like, bro, you're on an ex-cult subreddit. Why are you here if your life's not great? The only reason, and let me be very clear, and I'm not saying this to put myself on high or, oh, look how magnanimous Mike is. But I think the goal is to become an XXJW or
Yeah.
an XX Scientologist.
Yes.
If
Yes.
I didn't do what I do in coaching people, I would have had no idea that they said what they said Friday about college because I don't care. I mean, I care about the people in there, and I have family who's in there, but I'm not trying to save them. I've already grieved their loss. They're as dead to me as I am to them, and I don't need anything from them or want anything from them.
Right.
I have me, and that's good.
Yep.
And I'm my own best friend now, and I have a wonderful wife and lots of great things in my life. But I would not. I think if you're there and you're in these groups, there's a sign that there's something here that you're still trying to process, you're still trying to work through. There's probably some reason you're there.
Yep.
And I hope that someday you can just go be Chris or Mike, right? Without, unless you choose to work in the community and be a helper in some way.
That's right.
And someday I may decide that I don't want to ever hear this again. And I really kind of don't already, but as far as like learning what they do, right? But I do have a heart to help. I've always been a person who speaks up. And so I see that as part of who I am. And this is part of who I am as well. But it's just a small part. It's not my
That's right.
life. But, I think that we've got to work on this. And I'm not just saying that because I help people. If you think that I'm doing it just so that I can, because I don't know if there's this in Scientology, but in the ex Jehovah's Witness community, there's this thing about making money off of anything
Oh, of course
that
there is. Oh
helps.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
of
I'm
course.
like, well, I mean, we were slaves for that cult, and they would use that term. and unpaid, and everyone laments that. But I charge very, very little. I worked my ass off for years to get out of debt so that I could charge way less than anyone else charges so that I could help in the community that I have a heart for.
Right.
We paid off our house and everything, and that's why I get to do what I do today. And if I was doing it just for the money, I would charge way more and I'd have all kinds of programs out there and I'd be Mike Shemwell super coach and I'd be coaching other coaches on how to coach and I'd sell the marketing programs and all the things. I'm
That's
just here to
right.
help, and that's it. And
That's right.
I'm not doing it because and I'm certainly not promoting it right now because I'm trying to, or promoting getting help. I don't, if you don't want to work with me, don't work with me. I don't care who you work with. Just go work with somebody, do the work, and be happy so you can change your family tree going forward, and you can
Exactly.
and break the cycles. It doesn't matter who you work with. Just find someone you're comfortable with and do the work because I'm tired of seeing really nice, amazing people feel like trash about themselves and going through a life that they don't love because somebody told them they weren't worth it. And that sucks.
It
No one
does.
should have to do that. Uh,
No, not at all.
we live in America. Well, some of us do. I don't know who all listens to this. And I can't, and here there is opportunity and you can do a lot of things where in some countries, perhaps because of, or even here because of poverty and various things. I'm not saying it's easy for everyone, but it is worth it. Wherever you are, if you work on this, you'll be happier.
I think so. I
It's going
certainly
to
like to help
improve your
people with it.
life,
Yeah,
no matter what your
absolutely.
life is.
Huh. Well, I think we've said enough today. We've had a good long talk. We're almost hour 45 into this thing. Um,
Can I
it's been
can I say
interesting.
one thing? Would that
Oh
be
my God, of
okay?
course you can.
Okay. Because I don't know who your audience is. Is it primarily ex-Scientologists? Do you have a lot of
Yeah,
people?
ex cult members, people
Okay.
interested in the field.
Okay. But I didn't
Yeah.
get to say this on Jubilee, and I really
Mm,
wanted to. And that is
mm,
just a thank you to the ex-Scientologist community and
mm.
all the brave people who put their stories on display in Leah Remini's series.
Yeah.
Um, and what was the name of it?
Scientology in the aftermath.
And the aftermath. Yes, I got going clear in my head and couldn't get past it.
Oh yeah, then there was that
That was
that was
good
the other
too.
documentary. That's
Right,
right.
right. But just all the, you know, as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, just speaking, I wasn't nominated to, but I'm going to anyway, for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. A thank you to everyone in all these other groups who've spoken out. Because I've truly spoken with people and worked with people who one of the things that helped was really a catalyst in their waking process was seeing people from another group tell their stories and then realizing, oh no, this sounds really familiar. And because they were in a place to do so, they were awake
Yeah.
enough, it helped widen that crack. And and their separation was maybe at least expedited to some degree.
Yeah.
And so just thank you. Like I know we were on there in this Jubilee that was labeled as a versus episode, but there is a lot of love for the ex-Scientology community, whether you know it or not, in the ex-JW community.
Oh,
Because of that, so many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses watched that. And I don't, do you know that there's an episode of Leah's show that features Jehovah's Witnesses?
I do. Very familiar.
Like, and so this is why it's important to speak up. I help
Yep.
people from various groups on the Shunned podcast. It's not just ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, though it primarily is. I've interviewed an ex-Scientologist and people from the Amish, the Moonies, the FLDS, different folks as well. Don't let your story own you. Own your story. Feel free to tell it. And the people, healthy people, the right audience, will appreciate what you've been through when you're vulnerable in that way with the right people. And you truly can inoculate people. You can help other people who have relatives who are caught up in something. Like there's so much power to this. And so just a thank you to the ex-Scientology community and I don't know, whoever else listens from any other community, because we're not that different. It's cult Mad Libs. The nouns, the adjectives, the verbs change, the structure of control is the same. So we're all related in some way in having gone through this, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
No,
We're all in the same boat.
that's right. Absolutely. Thank you for saying all of that. I agree completely, and I have hit on that years ago. That business of, one of the best ways to help somebody start seeing the light with their own group is show them other groups.
Yes.
Right? Because then the defenses are down a bit and they're not so riled up. It's almost damn near impossible, short of personal intervention, to bust through somebody's thought fortress and get in there
Yep.
um, when their defenses are up and they're feeling attacked, right? But
Yep.
you show them happy, shiny people, or you show them Wild Wild West, or you show them, something about, that asshole out at the university over in that narcissist guy who basically enfolded like six college kids into his life, and I just can't remember the guy's name right now. But there's just endless numbers of these documentaries and shows highlighting narcissistic predatory personalities taking over, groups of people and creating codependency and abusing them, and this we call cults, right? And
Yep.
and when you can see it in that venue, then the dots start connecting with your own groups and your own life, and it's a wonderful way to help people
Yeah.
out of those
100%.
situations. Um, Found it to be very, very effective. And that's the thing about all of this post cult crap is most of it's education. Most of it is,
Mhm.
you got to go do some reading. You got to go watch some videos. You got some things to learn about how this stuff works. And once you get it, you get it. And then you're like, oh, okay.
So
And
you
that
start seeing it
now,
everywhere.
yeah, because now you feel a little bit armed. Now you feel a bit
Yes.
ready to, not so fearful about, am I going to fall back into it? You mentioned recidivism, and it's hard. I mean, I've heard studies with numbers as high as 75%. People will jump into another cult or go back to
Mhm.
the cult they came from because of that vacuum of information and emotional satisfaction in their life post cult. They can't find or fill those holes because they don't even know what they're looking for. And the only model they have to think about is what they came out of. And so this is why I think that education component is so important.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, again, Michael, thank you very much for taking some time to be part of my show here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you on Jubilee. Now it's
Yeah.
a pleasure meeting you here.
Yeah, exactly. And I have more questions about JW stuff. I think we might want to meet again because I'd like to break down a little bit more structurally, like we've been doing kind of with Mormons. We've been diving into the history, some of the secret history, some of the covered up history, and just the function and structure of the thing. How is this thing put together? Where's the money? Follow the money, right? Where's it going? How much property do they own? I mean, I know they own a lot, right? It's like,
Oh
what's that
yeah.
all about?
Oh
You
yeah.
always find this whole sort of the thing about these groups is these are the things that they just never really stop giving. There's just so much to plumb the depths of with these things because they are nefarious control operations. And so there's not just a twisted belief set and some personal relationship issues or shunning. There's so much more underlying these groups that's the surface that you see
Yep.
that they kind of even want you to see, but they don't want you to see some of this other stuff going on deeper, right? Like the
Oh
real
yeah. A
estate
magician shows you what
valuations.
he wants you to see.
Exactly, exactly. So I'd love to talk some of that with you about the JW
Absolutely.
organization.
Anytime.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Anytime.
again, thank you very much. Check out now your website is what? Where do people find you?
Okay, so you can find the Shunned podcast at shunnedpodcast.com. XJW Help, EXJW Help jehovahlife.com is the site where I have some helpful videos for people leaving Jehovah's Witnesses and some information about things like I do, like XJW Help Day, and some of the other things that I do in the community. There's a book called Becoming Jehovah. You can go to becomingjehovah.com and just read it freely there. I don't, there's no charge. It's all right there. You can read it, listen to thisjwlife.com. Thisjwlife.com is my story, my original podcast. It's even translated into Spanish there if you're in the Hispanic community and you speak Spanish, because we wanted to help that community as well. There's just lots of lots of things. It's my ADHD. I'm rather prolific. I could go on with more links, but that's plenty.
That's good.
And I've done a lot of things because I
Awesome.
find it all interesting and like to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks again. And folks
Thank
out
you.
there, thanks for coming around, watching the show, listening to us gabber on at a mad rate about all of this stuff. I hope that you found it entertaining, enjoyable, educational, informative. As always, that's the whole goal of this thing, is just give you some food for thought and send you on your way. So we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.